Hey folks, we got ourselves a Stanley Bedrock Type 3 plane and we're going to restore it. This tool was made between 1900 and 1908, meaning it's at least 113 years old, and this is in relatively good shape. I wish I looked this good when I'm at that age. I've been known to bash the Bedrock line of planes because they were expensive back then and they are expensive now. These planes are the genesis of high-end planes from which brands such as Lee Nielsen and Veritas follow in the footsteps, and they have become collector items. The reason I don't like them is because they can cost as much as 10 times as a regular old Stanley Bailey plane, but I don't think you get 10 times the performance. The foremost difference between these two planes is that on the Bailey, the frog sits on these machine supporting spots here, and that's all the contact it has with the body of the plane. On the Bedrock, the frog sits on this massive machine surface here, giving it an absolute solid connection between it and the body of the plane, thus the name Bedrock, which is said to reduce vibrations on the iron, which gives you a better cut. Also on later models, not this one, this is a very early one, there was an easy adjustment mechanism for the frog, which again, while neat, I don't think I would ever use it enough to justify the extra cost. For me the frog is pretty much just set and forget. That said, this is a neat plane. This is beautifully made. It's in very good condition. In fact, you could just sharpen the iron and start using it. But the body overall is in excellent condition. The tote is very good. The front knob needs work. The iron and chip breaker and cap are also very good. The frog, however... This frog broke at some point and it was rather crudely welded back together. So we're going to concentrate most of our efforts on making sure it's usable. I'm not a collector, this plane is going to be used, so I don't care for collector value. I need it to be functional. So let's take it apart. I'm gonna scrub it up and see what it looks like under this dirt, and we'll go from there. Alright, it's clean, and the original plan was to strip it to bare metal and refinish it, but there's so much good original finish in it that I cannot do that. That would be a crime. I will, however, touch up the scuffs on the finish, and I will use a technique I learned from a gentleman who restores planes. I don't remember his name, but I will put a link to his channel somewhere. Then the final step is to hit it with the steel wool just lightly, just to give it a little polish, and it evens everything out. Then I'm gonna give just a very light sanding here where the frog sits, just to make sure everything is perfectly flat. Now I'm going to lap the sole of the plane. I expect it to be in good shape because everything in this plane is in such good order. It's amazing. And no, you don't need to have this fully assembled to lap. That's a myth. That is great. It has some gouges here, but that's not going to affect it. You don't need a glass smooth surface. I'm not going to lap the sides, I like the patina on them. Next, we'll give the whole thing a good coat of wax. Then wait for it to dry to a haze, and then we polish. This was the easiest plane sole restoration ever. I just had to clean it up and do some touch-ups. The frog, however, I'm expecting major problems with it. When they welded the pin that holds the lateral adjustment here, so I'm gonna have to grind this off. And also there is weld over the pin that holds the yoke that adjusts the blade depth. I can see the separation of the two types of metal, so I think it should be safe to punch it. This one too, I'm gonna try to punch it out. Please, 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 please don't break. There. And it didn't break. Well, it's coming out. This one I'm going to remove the Japanning because it was cooked by the weld and it's not in good shape. The biggest problem I have to deal with now is that the weld spots here, they are high enough that they catch, so we don't have a perfectly flat surface here. That's a great improvement. A few hours in this goop should remove all that old finish.
3 hours later.
I'm going to let it sit overnight on this stuff, together with everything else that rusts. Now to address the wooden parts while the steel stuff soaks in the rust remover, this tote, it's in excellent condition. It just has a little bit of a scuff here. So let's scrape off the old finish and put some new finish on. There, that's a beautiful piece of rosewood. I don't know what type. If you know, let me know in the comments. But I wouldn't be surprised if this is something crazy like Brazilian rosewood, because Stanley really went all out in these planes. They were for the discerning craftsmen with extra money to spend. Now this thing, what am I gonna do with it? I'm going to fill in the cracks with wood glue, and the deep gouges I'm going to fill them in with a mixture of glue and rosewood sawdust. Now it gets to sit overnight to fully cure, and then I just have to sand off the excess glue. Let's see how these are doing. Later on they started using orange for the logo, but on these it was originally black.
The next day.
Now to start assembling it back together, I need to make a new pin because this one I had to cut it and it's now too short. That is different. Let's try it again. Now I have to get this thing out of here without damaging the rest of it. Let's give everything here a good coat of wax and then start putting it back together. I still have to sharpen the blade, but since I'm going to be handling it a lot, I want to avoid getting any new rust spots started on it. And it's sharpening time. Let's check how flat the back of this blade is. There's a high spot right here. Yep, this is gonna take some work. Having a good and properly set chip breaker is just as important as a good blade, so let's make sure this one is true and at the correct angles. Now with the tote and the knob, I'm just gonna give it a little buff of steel wool and some wax, so it doesn't look like it's been dipped in plastic. Now let's put it all back together and see how it came out. I haven't tested it yet, so we're gonna find out together what the century-old plane can do now that it has been restored. This is transparent, you can read through it. I could do this all day long. Would people watch it if I made videos of planing stuff? I'd call it the planning channel. Yes. This plane came out beautiful, I'm really pleased with it. And with proper care, this is gonna continue to make awesome shavings for centuries to come. So thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.